sorry about that if you're all feeling sick. I wanted to take my t-shirt off. Nobody's here to... Oops. Okay, I'm done. There we are. Got my t-shirt off. In my time when I was being trained, gradually you begin to notice things, and you notice that the men that were working on the coal face, we were taken to see the coal face, which is where men were actually working with pick and shovel. And of course they had big machines which had to be manhandled into place, and they would gouge out the coal, and the coal would be in seams. They didn't sort out. It's not like looking for gold, which is differently mined. They have great seams of coal which they dig into, and then they have to have the track has to be run out to the coal face, progressing as the pit, that particular face, progresses. And they would have people then, they'd have people digging out, they'd have people who could set the charges to blow out sections in very controlled explosions, and we'd hear those, and quite scary to hear those when you're a kid. And then they would load that into the tubs, and the tubs would be attached to a cable that runs along the ground, and they have these special clamps that clamp onto the link that's at the bottom of the tub, and it has a hook for that and a clamp for the moving cable. You have to be very careful because that cable has fingers. It's a cable that's made up of strands, and some of those strands break, and when they do, they'll take a finger off easily if you touch the moving cable. So you had to be taught this, and you had to practice it, and that was what we did. But going down to see the men working at the face was a particularly sobering sight. That's deep in the ground, with the knowledge that above you is, I don't know, 1,000 feet or whatever depth you are at. And from that to here. But one of the scariest things was actually going down to the face, the lowest place where they were taking coal. And we would go into a cage which actually was designed to take the tubs, and the tubs, it was like a cage that would take 2 tubs on each level, and it would have 3 levels, and that's what we would go down in. And there's just a bar across the front, so if you were the last one in, you would be the first one out, and you would be looking down into the pit, and you descend into that pit. And after a while I began to think of it as descending into my own grave. Now, I applied for and was due to start as a collier, on haulage in what was then the Bradford Pit. I don't even know if the Bradford Pit is still there, in Bradford, of course. Sorry, I'm doing the hill thing again now, so it might be wobbly and also puffing and panting. Maybe my father actually took pity on me, sitting there exhausted after a day at the pit as a kid, and he had written to a bandmaster, and the bandmaster was of the band, had evidently put in an advert saying boys taken and full musical training given. So without any test at all for the band, I played the bugle. I played the bugle in the cassette in the cadets. So no great emerging talent for music, except that I could hold the key if I sang. So I went and had a test, and they accepted me into the army, and that's when they pulled their little thing and said, oh, you're signing on for 6 and 3. So that's 6 years of full service and 3 in the reserve, in which I guess you can be called up. So I went in, and my parents, God love them, they took me to, I think it was Exchange Station, and I boarded a train that was pulled by an incredible, huge steam locomotive, and that took me to Scotland. And for a while I lived in Stirling Castle, where they didn't really know what to do with children, and I was in a room with another boy, but this boy was something of a steal for the pipe band, because he was something of a child prodigy and was an excellent piper, which is not an easy thing, and he was really very good. The most obnoxious boy that I've ever met, and didn't like the English. My introduction into a Scottish regiment and the infantry at that made me, I learned very quickly that the English were not automatically liked for being English. And as my knowledge of history has improved, I know that the English have a lot to answer for. So we didn't get on very well, but fortunately that didn't have to go for too long, and I went out to Germany to join the band, and I joined the band, and they issued me with an ancient trombone, which made more noise on the slide going up and down than I could make by blowing into it. But anyway, eventually I bought my own trombone. Well, then started a life. My 6 years turned into 8.5 years, because my 6 year service didn't start until I was 18, something that they would never allow now, but they did then. And so I was caught, and my father didn't know any different. I guess he looked at it as the lesser of two evils, either that or have me die in the pit, so which is a distinct possibility. So I left the pit, went into the army, and on my 16th birthday I was in Germany, in Berlin. So I joined the band there. So probably I've not been concentrating on where the camera should be looking, and I'm almost back home now. So I'll end off here. That's the hill. I always love coming around this corner because that's where we live. And if you look at it long enough, you can see little specks of red in those trees. That's home. So bye for now. Thanks for walking with me.